Well, good morning. This is Plant Smart Living with Farmer Fred. It's a beautiful morning here in April. The sun is shining, and I'm really glad you joined us today. And so anyhow, I wanted to give you some tips and ideas on how you can grow red sales leaf lettuce in your garden containers. So thanks for joining me today. So anyhow, before we get started planting the lettuce, I just wanted to give you some idea where I'm going to be planting it. Down below there is where I grow my potatoes and some different melons and so on. But underneath the trees there, where you see those 4 pots, is where I'm going to be growing the loose leaf lettuce. And it's only going to get a couple hours of sun in the morning, and the rest will be shade. And so just wanted to do an experiment to show that even some of these greens can be planted in partial shade. So I'm excited to do this experiment. Well, anyhow, before we get started planting this lettuce here in this garden container, they always come with some helpful information here. Like it tells you here, red sales lettuce leaf matures in 40 to 45 days, and it's a tasty bronze red crinkled leaves are high in nutritional value, and that it matures in 40 to 45 days. And you're supposed to space it around 8 to 12 inches apart in fertile, well-drained soil, and then water generously. Especially if you're growing things in containers, you constantly want to monitor the containers, the soil, and check for moisture content. Stick your finger in there, especially in your real hot, sunny days. You may have to water your pots sometimes twice a day. And so anyhow, what I'm going to do is, these containers here were from my 55-gallon indestructible raised garden bed video that I did, and so these have turned out to be really great garden containers. Although you can use any type of garden container, whether they're available at garden centers or home centers. You just want to make sure that there's drainage holes in the bottom. These here I put like 4 half-inch diameter holes in the bottom of these barrels. And so before I get started here, and also with container gardening, you want to use some type of potting soil. And then here in these I'm using my composted leaf mulch that's amended with topsoil. And I'm also going to amend this soil, add some fertilizer to it using my alfalfa pellets. And so I'm going to sprinkle that on top here. And these have an NPK of 322, so it's a pretty balanced fertilizer, and it's also a slow release fertilizer. As they break down over the season, the soil microbes, and then the plants are able to take up the nutrients. And then I also have some soy meal here that I've been using in the garden, and which is high in nitrogen. And so your leafy greens like a lot of nitrogen. Now, for instance, your tomatoes and your melons and your peppers or potatoes, you don't want high in nitrogen, otherwise you'll have all leafy greens and no root vegetable or fruit. And so you want to, anytime you grow like peppers or tomatoes or potatoes, you want to stay low in the nitrogen. And so what I'm going to do then is just take my garden fork here and kind of wiggle it back and forth so that some of those pellets and all will work their way throughout the soil. I'm just gently going to work it back and forth. And so that should be enough. Now what I have here is this is a market pack of 6 that I got from Ray's nursery nearby. And these were $1.60 for 6 of them. And so, it's a really inexpensive way to buy your seedlings or transplants. You don't have to go through the process of sowing your seeds indoors if you don't want to. I don't have enough time on my schedule to be doing everything by seed, so I think they're very cost effective to buy them in the 6 packs here. So I'm going to be planting 6 in this container. This container is about 23 inches in diameter, so it's going to be a nice experiment growing these in partial shade, and I'm sure they're going to do fine. They won't bolt as quick come the summer heat, and so it'll allow me to have lettuce more into the summer season. And so I'm simply going to just take each of these out. You know, you want to make sure that there's any dead leaves to pull the dead leaf off, and then just come in about 4 inches from the edge of the pot. You know, potting, again, container gardening is something very simple to do. If you're short on backyard space, you know, if you have a deck or a balcony, you know, you just and just enough sunlight, you know, you should be fine growing in containers. And so, also what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay a piece of wire fencing over these temporarily, just to keep off any kind of deer that might be in our area here. So I have 5 around the perimeter of the pot, and then I'm going to just plant one right in the middle. Again, taking off any type of dead leaf. Now most of your greens only need about 6 inches of soil, and so I have probably 10-12 inches of soil here, which will be more than enough for these lettuce leaves. And then you just want to gently water them in. And you know, you also could fertilize these with a liquid fertilizer once a week, you know, maybe half strength for the first couple weeks. You know, once the soil warms up, the soil organisms will begin to break down the organic matter feeding your plants. But in the beginning, when they're young like this, you kind of want to bottle feed them a little bit of some liquid fertilizer, because the plant will take up the liquid fertilizer much quicker. So anyhow, I hope this video is giving you some tips or ideas on how to grow loose leaf lettuce in your garden containers. And so if you have any questions or comments, you know, feel free to leave them in the section below. So anyhow, I just want to thank you for joining me today. So until next time, this is Plant Smart Living with Farmer Fred.